Hey soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. Your host Nick here, wishing you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, as well as a joyous New Year to come. Myself, I got to spend a lot of time with family. I loved watching my kids open all their presents this Christmas, including my son, who got a lot of different Major League Soccer trading cards. He's very thrilled that this year's 2024 pack of cards included a Messi card, and he was just absolutely ecstatic, showing his card off next to his giant flag of Messi that he received. I don't think my wife knew this thing was banner sized. I think she thought it was just a poster based on the online description. But no, it's like a 7-foot long, 5-foot wide banner that is now hanging in my son's bedroom. But he was very happy. He had a very Merry Christmas, as did my other children, as did the rest of my family, and I hope you can all say the same. Glad to be back with you talking a little soccer. It's been a bit of a different schedule because of the holidays, but we're going to get right back into all things Chicago Fire this episode. The Fire gave us some presents this week in the form of Gaston Gimenez's contract being terminated. So we're going to discuss his career a little bit with the Fire, what his departure means for the club, as well as a lot more in tonight's episode. Real quick, a housekeeping measure, I want to ask you all to go over to the YouTube channel, Glass House Soccer on YouTube. Today I published a video of all the goals from 2024, a highlight video that clipped together all 40 of the Chicago Fire's goals this past season, a little music, little descriptions on them. So please go subscribe to YouTube, check out that video, and I'll try to work back, maybe get 2021, 2020, some 2019 video clips, highlights out there. I've done now 2022, 3, and 4. So please go check those out and continue to support the channel. Now let's get into why we're here. We're talking Chicago Fire, and the biggest Fire news of this Christmas week is that they and Gaston Gimenez have agreed to mutually terminate his contract. Here's the release from the club. On December 24th, the Chicago Fire announced the club and Gaston Gimenez have agreed to terminate the midfielder's contract. Quote, "We thank Gaston for his contributions to the Fire and wish him and his family well for the future. This move was made to allow Gaston to pursue a new challenge while providing the club with greater roster flexibility as we look to strengthen the squad for the 2025 season," end quote, said Chicago Fire FC Director of Football and Head Coach Gregg Berhalter. So that's, your standard manager, outgoing player quote there. Thank you for your contributions, wishing you well. He's going to pursue new opportunities. We need roster flexibility. But we all know, anyone who's watched a Chicago Fire game these last 4 or 5 seasons knows that Gaston Gimenez has not been up to par. Now the article continues. Gimenez, 33, originally joined the Fire as a designated player on February 24, 2020, via transfer from Club Atlético Vélez Sarsfield from the Superliga Argentina. I'm going to pause right there and just remind everyone, Gaston Gimenez has been a designated player for 5 years. Five seasons. I think at one point they tried buying his contract down a little bit, but he's been a DP. Just for context, right? Just if you really want to measure the success of this player, he's been a DP for that long. And first of all, it's a pretty dumb move by the Fire to sign a DP D-mid unless they can really play both ways and play offensively as well as lock down that defense. But yeah, Gimenez was not that player. Okay, the Argentina-born midfielder played 134 matches, 112 starts, for the Fire across all competitions, scoring 4 goals as a midfielder and registering 11 assists. Gimenez wore the captain's armband on 15 occasions for the Fire, including 13 regular season matches and 2 Leagues Cup matches. Internationally, Gimenez earned 2 caps, 1 start for Argentina national team in 2018. Shortly after joining the Fire, the midfielder completed a one-time change of association through FIFA to join the Paraguay national team, and has since made 9 appearances, 8 starts, in the Copa America and 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifying. So that is the article summarizing Gaston Gimenez's contract situation with the Fire, the fact that there is none now, that he will be departing the club, and gives you a little bit of his background. So again, we've had a designated player, and yes, he was a defensive midfielder, but we've had a designated player that had 134 matches with 4 goals. 134 appearances for the Chicago Fire and 4 goals. For comparison's sake, the last great Chicago Fire defensive DP Bastian Schweinsteiger only played 3 seasons with the Fire, a total of 85 matches, and still had 8 goals and 15 assists. Again, Gimenez, 4 goals, 11 assists. So even as a defensive player, and yes, he is definitely not at the level of Bastian Schweinsteiger, but that just shows you how far down talent-wise this player was, despite what the club was paying him, and despite what the club was expecting from him. So now, where does this leave the club? How is Gaston Gimenez going to be remembered? Now, as far as how he's going to be remembered by many fans, he'll be the underachiever and a drain on the salary cap, a player who was rewarded for mediocre play, failing upwards, a mid-level D-mid at best. A lot of people didn't notice him walking around because they were also busy watching Xherdan Shaqiri walk around. There are a lot of people out there who are Gaston Gimenez, either defenders or apologists, saying, no, he tries hard and he's a great passer. And no, they just didn't notice how bad he was because we had a really, really bad Xherdan Shaqiri and a few other bad players just around him, kind of covering up his bad. And you had some other good defensive play from, say, Chihos and Thomajan, who could cover up some of Gimenez's mistakes, or Fede Navarro a couple of years back when he was actually decent, running all over that midfield, covering up Gimenez's mistakes. But now when all those guys are gone, and it's Gimenez who's got to step up, you do kind of notice how bad he was. And everyone says, oh, he's this great player. Look at what he did in this one game. Yeah, and then look what he does for the next 5 or 6, 7 games after that. And remember all the rumors about him being courted by like Boca Juniors down in Argentina. These big Argentine clubs really want him. And the Chicago Fire weren't going to let him go for $5-7 million. They wanted $8 to $10 million for the player they knew they had. They valued him. No, come on. Like, there was never any of that. None of that was real. I think those clubs, if there was any interest, were just saying, hey, we'll give you like $1 million for him, or we can just wait for him to be out of contract. Like, we know you guys don't want him. We know he underperforms for MLS. They could get a bench player for cheap, a guy who knew their league as well. So all those crazy speculations and rumors about Gaston going to Argentina again were just that. And I think that's why people started to see what they wanted to see. They wanted to see him so good because of those rumors and because we've sunk DP money into him and because he was wearing the armband a little this year and because he is the Fire's longest tenured DP on the roster and one of the longest tenured players there behind Fabian Herbers, who's also out of a contract here. So they're really turning the roster over. But yeah, for me, I'm going to remember Gaston Gimenez as the guy who put like 95% of his shots over the crossbar or way wide, or who just didn't want to play defense, and the only time he ever tried was in a contract season. I think this was a terrible signing to begin with. You're getting a 28-year-old D-mid coming from a lower division Argentine team. I think the Chicago Fire front office got a little cute. And hey, maybe hindsight is 2020. Maybe going back 5 years, had I been doing this show in 2020, I would have been like, oh, this is a great signing. But yeah, hindsight is definitely giving me some clarity here. Not a good signing, and then the fact that they continued to give him contracts and extensions and more money just compounded the mistakes, right? They couldn't just cut their losses. They couldn't just let him go. There were guys on CF2 who they could have brought up for a season or something like that. But all that being said, Gimenez leaves a less than positive mark on the Chicago Fire, a less than positive time here with them. But he is now off back to the Paraguayan top flight. He'll be playing with Club Cerro Porteño. And with him gone, and with Fabian Herbers out of contract, that leaves Mauricio Pineda as the most tenured player on the Fire's roster, and people are speculating whether he'll get the armband and be the captain this upcoming season, though I think my money would be on Kellen Acosta or Brian Gutierrez to walk out on that first match against DC or Columbus with the captain's armband. The positive for the roster, though, so we've got rid of a subpar player. But that also is going to be a positive for the roster flexibility that Gregg Berhalter talked about. Because now you got one more DP slot open. And also, the Chicago Fire can use their one-time buyout on another player. And the speculation is they're going to buy out Arnaud Souquet. And that would be a decent buyout considering he has a cap hit of $620,012. So that's pretty expensive for an outside back or an outside center back that has kind of lost a step over the last year, really never fit in with the squad at all. He did develop a little chemistry with Marin Haile Selassie at the beginning, I would say, of the 23 season. And maybe if those two had some time to work together a little bit more, they could have really built a bit of a 1-2 punch up the right-hand side there. But with the coaching staff never really figuring out a good formation and moving Selassie all over the place and moving Souquet from a wing back to a right center back, just kind of screwed all sorts of things up like that. And, are they going to start Souquet? Aren't they going to start Souquet? Those sort of things. So his salary, his style, his slowing down of play, all of that points to the Fire using their one-time buyout to move Souquet. And the Fire, I think, would eat whatever money there is to free up that roster space. Also, someone I saw on social media said that Souquet's wife posted something on Instagram saying that she's going to miss Chicago. So, hey, you never know. The talks could already be there, and maybe Monday morning we're going to hear some more news from the Chicago Fire. The only thing now is you've moved Gimenez. You are likely to move Souquet. You've moved a bunch of other players. You've got 2 DP spots. You've got some international spots and some domestic spots open. When are they going to start signing guys? We saw them sign some of the younger players to kind of fill in the back end of the roster. When are we going to start signing some real impact players here? Some guys who can step into MLS and make a play and elevate the level of this team. We're going to run out of time. The preseason's first game, it's like 5.5 weeks away. So you know they're going to start training as soon as the new year rolls around if they haven't already done it. So I am starting to get a little worried about this time crunch. Now, I guess you have to do the in Berhalter we trust things since it's his first offseason with the club, but he's pulling double duty as GM and as coach. So maybe he is in a little bit of his own time crunch. But speaking of the front office, they did bring in some help for Berhalter. They have announced additional hires on the sporting side of things, which again are managed by Gregg Berhalter. So here's the press release from this past Monday, the 23rd. The Chicago Fire announced 3 additions to the sporting leadership team. Some great corporate speak there, the leadership team. They have named Darcy Norman as Director of Performance, Eddie Rock as Head of Strategy, and Zayne M. Thomajan as General Manager. Each position will report directly to Director of Football and Head Coach Gregg Berhalter. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing Thomajan. The appointments of Norman, Rock, and Thomajan complete Berhalter's sporting leadership team. Completed the team, which also includes Sporting Director Greg Broughton and Head of Recruitment Michael Stevens. Note they don't mention Frank Klopas as part of the leadership team. Maybe he's more part of an advisory team. Anyway, the article continues on now with a quote from Gregg Berhalter where he says, "I'm very excited to welcome Zayne and Darcy to the Fire and to see Eddie transition into this new position. With these moves, we have established a strong and cohesive leadership team for the 2025 MLS season. They each bring valuable expertise and experience, which will be essential as we continue to develop a high-performing and collaborative environment." So more manager talk, more colloquialisms, more coach speak there, corporate speak. Nothing, Gregg's not going to give you anything as far as, specifics in these kind of general statements here. But, he does seem excited. He's selected these people, and he has overseen now Eddie Rock getting a promotion instead of further clearing house within the organization. So he recognizes the value of Rock there. So what are these 3 people specifically going to be doing? Let's start with Darcy Norman, Director of Performance. So as the Director of Performance, Norman will oversee medical services, physical performance and nutrition, and sports psychology for the first team, CF2, and the academy. As part of his role, Norman will implement evidence-based and cutting-edge performance strategies to maximize player availability and enhance development across all teams. So this is good. I don't know too much about Norman's experience, but we'll talk about it more in the article. But keeping these Fire players healthy and well over the course of the season is a huge priority for this club. We saw how bad the injury bug hit them last year with Gutman and Gasper and the back line getting knocked out. We even saw Gutierrez with some knocks that he's picked up throughout the season, especially for a young player to be starting hopefully 30 to 34 matches for this club over the course of the season. So this is going to be critical if the Fire are going to take their next step forward as far as on-field performance to be physically fit. Darcy Norman is then also quoted in the article saying, "It's clear that the Chicago Fire has the ambition and vision to become one of the most successful organizations in the league, with the infrastructure and resources being put in place. I'm excited about the club's future and eager to help drive performance across our teams. I want to thank Gregg for this opportunity and look forward to getting started ahead of next season." So again, a very kind of standard quote here, but he does discuss the ambition and vision and the resources being put into it. So he is seeing the money coming in, the structure being, the new training center, all those things. So that is part of the reason that Norman is here. And he brings nearly 30 years of experience in performance coaching, rehab, and sports science to the team. His career spans elite athletes and organizations worldwide, including teams competing in major competitions such as FIFA World Cup, UEFA Champions League. So he's been all over. So here's his resume a bit. Most recently, he was head of performance and the performance coach for the men's national team for 6 years, working alongside Berhalter. There we go. That's the connection. He was Berhalter's guy with the USMNT, and he's bringing him here to Chicago. Also held roles with Bayern Munich, the German national team, and AS Roma. And while with the German national team, they won the 2014 FIFA World Cup. He has a bachelor's degree in physical therapy from the University of Washington and bachelor's in bio and kinese from Washington State. So the guy's got the pedigree. It's just Berhalter was the connection to bring him in. Don't say nepotism. Don't say all the stupid stuff that we heard going on with the USMNT. This is a proven employee here that is hopefully going to do well for the club. Now moving on to Eddie Rock. He's the head of strategy. What does that mean? Head of strategy. Sometimes, depending on the company and depending on the infrastructure, that sounds just like a made-up title to give some old guys so that they didn't have to fire him because he's given his life to the club. But I don't think that's the case here at all, because as head of strategy, Eddie Rock will collaborate with the leadership team to develop and track a strategic plan, manage a best-in-league analytics team, create a salary cap strategy on short-term efficiency and long-term sustainability, and lead special projects across the sporting group. I love this position. He's going to be involved in a little bit of everything. He's probably going to be handling a lot of the sporting director stuff for Berhalter while Berhalter is doing more of the coaching, and then hopefully over the next 2-3 years Berhalter can then transition into more of the front office role and bring in the next coach behind him to take over a successful team and organization as well. So I like having the projects guy here. What do we need? We need someone to take over the analytics team and keep that cutting edge. We need someone to work on salary cap, crunch the numbers. This is the project guy. This is like the operations guy in my mind, and I absolutely love it. I think every company should have this. I have pushed it at my own company, and I'm like, we need operations. We need someone to thread everything together and not just bill hours, but all in due time, all in due time. My company's growing just like the Fire, so hopefully one day I can follow in Eddie Rock's footsteps, just putting that out there in the universe. But anyway, here is what Rock says about his new position. Joining the Fire in 2017 was a dream come true. Chicago deserves a club that reflects the values and heartbeat of this incredible city. Our collective passion to make that a reality is stronger today than ever. The best days for both the city and the club are still ahead. So very optimistic look by Eddie Rock, and if you've worked for the Fire for 7 years plus, you need to be optimistic. The article continues to say that Rock was promoted to head of strategy after spending the past 7 years as the Fire's senior vice president of football operations. Previously, he managed roster compliance, the first team salary cap, immigration matters, including getting green cards and visas for players and staff. Additionally, he collaborated with the business operations leadership team to ensure integration between the sporting and commercial functions. He also worked closely with the sporting operations and performance departments to manage compliance, player care, and onboarding. So again, he's the operations guy. He's the thread that ties everything together. So this is a perfect person to promote and keep at the right hand of Gregg Berhalter. Eddie Rock also holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Beloit College and a JD from Mitchell Hamline School of Law. I've never heard of Mitchell Hamline, but growing up in Rockford, I'm very familiar with Beloit and Beloit College, so great to see someone who maybe I could consider a local connection at some point, in some degree of separation, doing so well for the Fire. So Eddie, if I ever get a chance to meet you, I'll have to tell you about my adventures in Beloit. They're not really adventures. It was just some time spent there. There's a little Greek church and there was a little Greek chapel in Beloit I'd visit. Anyway, moving on to the third appointment here, Zayne M. Thomajan, general manager. Thomajan. We'll have to hear the pronunciation guide whenever she gives her first press conference here. But in her role as general manager, Thomajan will oversee the daily operations of the football department, ensuring smooth execution of all club activities and player relations. Her responsibilities will include overseeing the football operations budget, coordinating daily operations, managing the equipment team, and overseeing the overall administration of the football operations department. I could not be more thrilled to join the Fire, said Thomajan. Chicago's a club with an incredibly rich history, and I'm so excited to support its return to winning ways under Gregg's leadership. This is a special project, and I can't wait to get to work alongside this group of players and staff. So again, optimism, happiness, positivity. I'm feeling it myself here, everyone. Maybe it's the holiday cheer. Maybe it's what I put in the hot cocoa, or maybe it is just the good vibes coming from everyone in the Chicago Fire front office. But what is Thomajan's background? Prior to joining the Fire, she spent the 2024 season as the chief soccer officer for New Jersey, New York Gotham FC in the National Women's Soccer League, where she assisted the general manager with the day-to-day management of soccer operations, including roster and salary cap strategy. During her time with Gotham, the team achieved its highest regular season point total, 56, secured its first ever home playoff match, and advanced to the semifinals of the 2024 NWSL playoffs and CONCACAF Women's Champions Cup. Thomajan previously spent time with Austin FC in MLS, serving as the special assistant to the president and sporting director before transitioning to senior manager of business and sporting operations. She holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Harvard University, where she also served as co-captain of the women's soccer team. So she's played the sport, she's managed the sport, she's run the business side of it. This looks to be a very good hire. But what I am going to point out here, what is the theme that's running through all of these hires? So for Thomajan, it said she's going to be overseeing the budget as one of her job duties. For Eddie Rock, he is going to be, or he has worked and will continue to work on salary cap and creating sustainability. What about Darcy Norman, director of performance? She doesn't have any of the financial things, but she will be overseeing kind of the physical aspect of all three levels of the Chicago Fire, the first team, CF2, and the academy. So she is going to need to work with these other two people from the financial side of things in order to implement, as they call it, the cutting edge performance strategies and evidence-based ways to maximize player availability. So you see a lot of financial, budgetary, just good money sense coming in with Berhalter here. And I think, number one, that really appeals to Joe Mansueto. I think that is a great way to pitch it to the investment guy, the Morningstar founder here, right? To bring these people in. But also it sends a signal to me that this is an admission that this club has been run poorly from a fiscal contract player standpoint for the last several years at least, and they're coming in to clean it up. And you pair that alongside these roster moves that they've made so far, it makes a lot of sense. Moving Shaqiri, moving Gimenez, buying out last season Shabilko, buying out potentially Souquet this season, dumping or not renegotiating contracts with Herbers and Chihos and Lassiter and others that they kind of let walk in free agency. Like, those are the things that this regime now under Berhalter, they're getting their economics in order. They're getting their finances in order. To me, where that goes is we might not see a very good Chicago Fire team. If they can bring in those two DPs that they want, or, not that they have two in mind, maybe they do, I don't know. But if they don't fit the mold that they want, they're probably not going to sign them. They're not going to go out and spend just to have a DP, just to have a name or a star, quote-unquote star player, filling a roster spot and getting people to come out to the game. They're going to be very pragmatic. At least that's what I think is going to happen. So if they can't sign the DPs that they're targeting or that they have in mind, the kind of player they want, especially one that also fits into the culture Gregg's trying to build, not just the talent and the stats, but someone who's a good locker room fit, someone who can play to the crowd and fit in here in Chicago, fit in with the team and the organization. They're not just going to go out and sign a player to sign a player or spend money, overpay on a free agent just to bring a guy in. That makes me worried. Again, we have about 5 weeks before the first preseason match, and I forgot to look up when they can continue to make transfers, but free agents you can sign anytime. Are they going to have enough time to really make this a competitive roster? Or is the first half of the 2025 MLS season going to be this club getting an identity, getting a culture, and then getting their finances set to make big summer signings? At this point in time, I'm leaning towards the latter. Not to say that they can't surprise us come Monday. Hey, maybe Gregg was working some magic over the holidays here. Or maybe there's going to be a big New Year's signing, someone they're going to introduce at the Coachella Invitational. We saw it last year, blurry Kellen Acosta photos coming out at the Coachella Invitational training sessions, right? So maybe there's still something in the works, but at this point, it seems that they're just cleaning house, getting their finances in order, and making the safe signings, the financially responsible signings, again, with some of the CF2 players or the draft picks, things of that nature. So that's why I'm not getting too excited at this point. I'm not ready to get hurt again, as a lot of Fire fans have said. All right, let's move on to our next topic here with the Fire. Speaking of players and player development, the Chicago Fire have selected 3 players in the MLS Super Draft, and the Super Draft took place a week ago on December 20th. I won't share with you all the details of the players here, but they did pick up 3 players. First of all, Dean Boltz, a forward out of the University of Wisconsin. Hometown, Palatine, Illinois. So a local guy getting in the draft, also coming from Wisconsin, like Tom Barlow and Chris Mueller. But also I remember reading an article that he actually is one of the highest scoring freshmen. He's a freshman. One of the highest scoring freshmen in the Big Ten, if not across the country. He was the freshman of the year in the Big Ten. So this is a very high upside pickup, and hopefully they get him in with CF2 as soon as possible and start developing him. They also picked up Travis Smith Jr., a defender from Wake Forest University, a guy originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and he's been at Wake Forest for 2 seasons, logging a lot of minutes. They even said he scored the game winner in a 2-1 victory over Syracuse in the ACC tournament. So I guess they like to talk about goal scoring, but I'd love to have a defender play some defense first. Defenders got to defend first, absolutely. So this is a guy that hopefully they can develop in kind of the Justin Reynolds path, and as we see Reynolds stake his spot out with the first team, we can have Travis Smith Jr. kind of fill in with CF2. And then the third player they picked up, Jenny Kanyane, a defender from University of Dayton, originally from Roodepoort, South Africa. So he's a 23-year-old. He's been with the University of Dayton. Doesn't say exactly how many seasons, but he's logged 4,300 minutes. Has also represented South Africa's under-20 national team, and it has some youth international experience. So that is a nice little pickup there to have that experience. So the Fire, again, selecting players who not impact first-team players, but guys who they are filling in CF2, filling in the back end of the roster. Sustainability, that's what it is. You definitely need to have a first team. You got to roll somebody out on February 22nd, right? So these moves, though, are creating that pipeline of talent to rotate up from CF2 to the back end depth pieces on the roster to starters on the first team. So that's another good move by the Fire there. High upside types of moves from the draft. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here, and I'll get through this as quickly as possible because it is a bit of a lengthy topic, something for the season ticket members, something that all Fire fans, though, need to be aware of because of the potential repercussions it could have, or reverberations. Repercussions sound so negative, that's not it. But there is a new season ticket policy in place regarding the rolling over of the tickets. So last season ticket members could participate in a ticket exchange program and roll over tickets from any match to any other match, with, of course, the Inter-Miami game accepted. So if I could make, my match against Philly, I could take those 2 tickets, roll them over maybe a couple weeks out, and then have 4 tickets for the next match. Again, I have 2 season tickets. I can turn them into 4 for the next match, maybe put a few of them into one game and have 6 tickets so I could take some family and friends to come to a match. That policy is ending. This season, matches are assigned one of 3 categories, and season ticket members can only roll tickets over if the matches are in the same category. Now, the 2025 matches are divided into 3 tiers: Diamond, Gold, and Silver. This ticket exchange program excludes the Diamond matches, such as Inter Miami's game, as well as Cup matches, Leagues Cup and Open Cup. The only Diamond match is the Inter Miami game, and that was never going to be able to be something you can manipulate tickets with anyway. So, pretty much no change there. They just gave it a specific level. Now, Gold is the second tier, and you can exchange Gold level tickets for other Gold level tickets. Then the third tier and the final tier, Silver matches, can be exchanged 1-to-1 for other Silver matches, or you can exchange them into a Gold match, but you also have to pay the difference in the price. So Gold matches cannot be exchanged down to Silver matches, though. So that's the other thing. You're losing that flexibility of taking, a match which is better from the Chicago Fire standpoint and moving it to a lesser match because they want to sell those tickets. And I'll tell you who those Gold matches are shortly. Or those golden tickets. Ha ha ha. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Here we go. The other thing is exchanges out of a match must be made at least 72 hours prior to kickoff. Tickets for a maximum of 3 matches can be exchanged into a single match, and once tickets are exchanged, no additional exchanges can be made for those tickets. Seat location and inventory subject to change based on match-by-match availability. Always read the fine print, everybody. And that's just good advice, not because I'm a lawyer, but just from life. So, what matches correspond to each level? We said the Inter Miami match is the Diamond level, and I guess you could consider Cup tournament matches, Leagues Cup, Open Cup, as Diamond level since there's no exchange in or out. The 4 Gold level matches are the March 1st season home opener, or the home season opener against DC, June 28th against Charlotte, July 12th against San Diego, and August 9th versus LAFC. So I understand the home opener is a Gold level. I understand the new expansion team is a Gold level. And I understand LAFC, one of the best teams and most popular teams in the league, as the Gold level. Charlotte on June 28th? Is there something special going on June 28th? Did I not hear about? Email me, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com, or put it in the comments of the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube. Is there something going on June 28th? Are they trying to start a rivalry with Charlotte? Why is Charlotte the 4th Gold level match? I'll have to figure that out. All the rest of the matches are at the Silver level. So, on one hand, the season ticket members are losing flexibility in what I think is probably the second best perk next to the free parking if you buy 2 season tickets. But it does show that there is an increase in the season ticket membership sales, an increase in single match sales, just a general increase in interest in the Fire, and the club is adopting policies of, more successful clubs. I wouldn't call it flex pricing or surge pricing, but they're starting to get to that point with these tiered matches. And the fear that I have out of this, I'm glad the Fire are being responsive and not just waiting till people screw the system by rolling tickets over into different things, or rolling your Wednesday night game against the Revolution into a Saturday afternoon matchup against the Galaxy or something like that, right? Because they're losing money on that. But I'm worried this is going to now cause an increase in ticket prices, both single tickets, packages, and season ticket memberships, or this is the precursor to that. It is expected, right? As the team improves, which they should be, or when they've created a buzz like they are, or when they've just sold more tickets and got more partnerships and all these other things, it's expected that prices are going to go up. So it looks like the Fire are a little ahead of it. So I give the club credit, but for me as a guy who's got to buy my tickets, I'm a little bummed that the prices are going to continue to go up and I'm going to have even less flexibility with it. But hey, student tickets are still $15. Anybody got a student ID I can borrow? Maybe I should go enroll in a community college class just so I can get cheap $15 tickets to the Fire games. You never know. All right. So that's the new development with the season ticket membership package there, the ticket exchange program updates. One last brief announcement. If anyone's interested, the Chicago Fire's 2025 season kickoff lunch is Tuesday, February 18th at 11 a.m. at the Swiss Hotel in Chicago. Tickets are a little steep for individuals because it is a benefit. It does benefit the Chicago Fire Foundation. So tickets are $300 a pop for single tickets, and then there's various prices for tables and sponsors and all that sort of stuff if you're interested in becoming a big donor. But all the money that's raised goes towards their soccer programs in the community. If you don't want to buy a ticket and go to the luncheon, and hey, who knows, maybe if my next sponsorship check or my next ad check comes in and it's bigger than I thought, maybe I'll buy a ticket and go, because the foundation is a good cause. But you can also make a donation, even $50. It says we'll supply a Chicago Fire camper with equipment for the camp. So as low as $50, you can help support a kid play soccer in Chicago. So there is the benefit and the bonus there. So with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. I hope you're all having a happy holidays. Wishing you all a happiest of New Year's. Probably won't have another episode till 2025, maybe? I don't know. Maybe I squeeze one in New Year's Eve as I wait to ring in the new year. But I hope everyone's having a great time with the holidays, with their families, friends, loved ones. And if you're sitting alone somewhere, please email me. Let me know. We'll talk a little soccer. We'll talk a little life. GlassHouseSoccer@gmail.com. And with that, I will leave you to your day, and let's go Fire.